I'd say like the single most important thing that this Father Bob McCreary taught me about sexuality is that it's meant for everyone. Like as a priest, our sexuality is meant to be a gift to everyone. He told me this story when he was in an airport, and he said he was a young priest. He was noticing all these pretty like flight attendants, like these stewardesses walking by, and he said he realized, oh my gosh, I was looking at all these women. And then he said, okay. And he said he paused for a minute, and he just heard the Lord say in his heart, you're meant to see everyone. And all of a sudden he said he opened his eyes, and like he realized like there's this beautiful like old lady next to him. He said there was like these kids that like they were playing with their parents. He said the world got more colorful. There became more people in the world than he was noticing at first. And that's what he taught me about sexuality. Then when lived rightly, life becomes technicolored, not narrow. Celibacy is an invitation to see all the colors and all the people that are around you at all times, not to see one part of like one person.
I think a lot of people have conflated sexuality with intimacy. They often go together, but they're not the same thing. You can have a lot of sex and no intimacy, and you can have a lot of intimacy with no sex. The thing that the heart is longing for constantly is the intimacy, though.
So often, sexuality, like sexual union, is about our own desires and meeting our own needs or our own attractions and those kinds of things. But true, the deepest meaning of sexual union is of course about life, because it's the very way that life goes on in the world, and it's also about love.
I was scared of desire. I didn't know what to do with it. Not only do we have desires and that they are good, but that there's a place that they land, and that's the infinite. And whether that's through your earthly spouse or directly through your vocation as a celibate, God gave you those desires, and that they are meant to go somewhere, and He wants to fulfill them, and that they're good and beautiful just as much as you are good and beautiful.
Sexuality is our embodiment as male and female, and all of the implications that it leads to in precisely in the fact that it's ordered, and there's implications in that ordering, not just simply the physical difference, but in those physical differences there are spiritual differences too that ignite the heart, that order the people together.
Because sexuality is at the level of identity, right? It's who you are as a son or a daughter of God. It has everything to do with vocation, because you can't kind of live and act in the world apart from your body, apart from who you are. And so it's a living out of the deeper meaning of sexuality. Because the deeper meaning of sexuality is this total giving of oneself to the other.
Does sexuality fit into discernment? Absolutely. Precisely because what you're discerning is not a career or a job. You're discerning where and how am I called to lay down my life to be given away as a gift.
And so fatherhood and sexuality precisely means I will be everything that this life needs me to be. And so like it's the full act, it's the full giving of self. So not only am I giving myself, if I'm a married guy, to my wife, through this act of self-giving love, I literally give myself over to the child that will be conceived, so that like it's total self-giving. Like I am all in. I'm not just a lover, I'm also now committed to being a moral guide, a voice of encouragement and tenderness, an example of spiritual life, a present person of love in their lives.
But the invitation is still there, is the same. Will you spend yourself? Will you give yourself away? The same muscles in the heart that would have made me an awesome husband and an awesome dad make me an awesome priest. The same thing as a religious. It's the same thing. It's not one or the other. It's asking the Lord humbly, like, where are you calling me? What form of embodied self-giving love are you calling me to? That's the question of discernment. You're just at a loss for words sometimes, just to share that, like, no, I promise you, if you do this right, if you bring your heart to Jesus, it's going to satisfy in a way that you couldn't even begin to imagine.
It's just so freeing. It's so freeing for you to just live out your vocation.
It's possible to live according to what the church is holding out, and it's really good, and it's really beautiful, and it sets you up to experience love and life and sexual union as it's meant to be, in the way that will really fulfill you.
It's the whole self saying, I am here and I'm not going anywhere.